there, and welcome to the start of the Gemini lunar cycle. Today is Tuesday, May the 27th, and we will be working with the Gemini cycle from now until June the 24th before we enter into our next cycle, which will happen in the sign of Cancer. But for now, I introduce you to the messenger. This is the archetype for Gemini. The messenger is all about duality. Gemini is the sign of the twins. Here we have our beautiful twins who are talking on the phone and sending out their messages in order to respond to their environments, to feel into the day-to-day, who they interact with every day, who they speak with every day, where they travel to on a daily basis, what environments are we putting ourselves in, so that we can start to really feel into that and understand where that's taking us in terms of our long-term plans, and understand how it is that we cooperate and collaborate with other people in order to get where we need to go, in order to do what we need to do to see where we're going in the future. So I'm going to start off this video by kind of going back a couple months, where we started off in April with the brand new Zodiac year under the sign of Aries. And that lunar cycle was really about launching out these amazing new ideas or goals or visions that have been coming to us over the course of the last couple of years. And because that Aries lunar cycle was kicked off by an eclipse energy, it really was this final start, this new, yes, I've decided I'm going to go for these things in my world. I want them to be a part of the next chapter. I'm going to take the lead, and I'm going to start to go out there and actually go after it and build into these dreams. And so that was really the energy that we were kind of working with throughout the month of April. And when we went into last month and dealing with, up until yesterday, all throughout the month of May, we were looking at Taurus energy, which was more of a stabilizing energy. How is it that we're going to start to ground in these visions and these dreams that we've been having? How are we actually going to make this real within our world? And in order to do so, we have to really take a look at the value. What is important to us? And also, what is the value of our time, of our money, of our energy, the things that we call our personal resources that we have to put into these new dreams? We have other things that we do in our world. We have an income that's going to tell us how much money we have to work with. We have a set amount of time that we have to give to other people, and to also give to ourselves and to our own dreams and visions. And so the last 4 weeks leading up to today was really about, what does that look like for me? Am I exhausted trying to make everything work? Well, and then I don't have time to even build my dreams into reality? Or are there things that I need to clarify and make some room for, and maybe distribute differently so that I'm able to use the resources to build them sustainably and start to work with them in a way that I'm going to be able to start working with this new chapter in my life. So now today we enter into the sign of Gemini, and we'll be working with this energy for the next 4 weeks. And Gemini, as you see, is really about talking, communicating, processing the environment. Gemini's theme is to process. How can I process my environment and then respond to it? Be it during, like, from your nervous system perspective, from just hankering through your day-to-day and moving through your short distance travels and switching environments. You've got your work environments, you've got your home life, you're constantly meeting new people. Gemini could be you interacting with your barista down the street, or you interacting with the person at the library when you're returning your books. These are people that you are around a lot. They're within your different communities that you find yourself in. And we network with these people. We speak to these people, not only to learn from them and share with what we're doing, what they're doing, and that plays into part of how we want to create things. But it's also to, when we are sharing and we are receiving the way that they are responding to us, it's going to help us to process that feedback in a way that's going to lead us in our planning and provide the next steps as to what do we need to learn about, who do we need to be talking to, who is supportive of what we're doing, who is not supportive of what we're doing, and how can we collaborate together so that we're all working together for mutual growth. Gemini is an adaptable sign. It is a flexible sign. It is a quick thinking sign. It's very curious, and it's very social, and it's even a little playful. This will be a month of a lot of socialness. This will be a month of meeting new people, of coming up with new ideas through those new people. That's going to help to inspire you and motivate you in terms of what it is that you want to be doing. Also, it's coinciding with the last month of spring before we enter into summer. And for those of us that live in the Northern Hemisphere, this is an exciting time. The days are getting longer, and it's getting a little bit warmer outside, and we're going to be out walking about and meeting new people more and more and more. And so we get to share with new people what it is that we're working on. We get to meet new people out there that are going to feel in alignment with the things that we're working on. So it's a very exciting energy. We have 4 weeks to work with the lunar cycle. And we already started getting a taste of Gemini energy last week when the sun moved into Gemini to start off the Gemini season itself. And whatever was coming up last week in terms of the people that you were meeting, the environments that you found yourself in, now is the time where we can work with this energy as we move through all of the other 11 signs of the zodiac as the moon progresses throughout the month. And so when I'm working with my Zodiac, Archetypes of the Zodiac course and with those cohorts, it's really a great opportunity for them to witness how the sign of the Gemini, like the sign of the messengers, are meeting up with all the other archetypes, because the moon is switching signs every 2 to 3 days. And it's really an opportunity to see how this processing energy, this receiving feedback and understanding how to work with that and how it's making us feel, and how we can learn and grow from that feedback. We get to meet that within all the other signs throughout the course of the next 4 weeks. So I'm going to walk us through week by week, and we're going to start with week 1, where we're receiving clarity as to how we are processing our environments and the people within them. So for today and tomorrow, we are in the sign of Gemini, and you might find yourself in a very social mood the next 2 days, or you might find yourself receiving a lot of other calls and other communications from people that are sharing information with you to see how you're responding to their ideas. And then you in turn are able to use that in terms of your own plans that you're going to work with moving forward. It's a time to really sit and reflect as we welcome in this energy. It's a time that we can start taking some action on some of the ideas that we've been having based on the goals that we have, based on what we've now discovered that is very valuable to us and we want to put our resources towards. This would be the time where we're going to start reaching out and start sharing that within our community. On Thursday and Friday, the moon will transition into the sign of Cancer. And Cancer will work with this processing energy in terms of how can we nurture the things that we want to grow by putting up some boundaries around our own space, putting up some boundaries to protect our nervous system, really, and to protect the way that we want to go about and interact with our world so that we're able to continue to grow the things that we want and not let ourselves fall to past limiting beliefs that might have told us that we can't do that we can't stretch beyond what's comfortable to us. So however that's showing up in your world, that could show up in terms of work life or home life, but whatever it is, it really is a matter of being your own mother, of nurturing yourself, of understanding what makes you feel good and safe and comfortable in growing the things that you want to grow, and how can you support that by cocooning around that and not allowing in negative energies or energies that's going to dissuade you from going after the things that you want. On the weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, the moon will transition into the sign of Leo, which is all about bold, confident expression of what it is that you want. And as we're processing all of this information that's coming at us about how we can work with these new ways of doing, we can start to share that out loud and show what we're really excited about. And in the way that we do that, we do so that other people can see our passion, that we can be loved and admired and respected for going after the things that we want to do. And Leo would also really speaks to us being excited and taking some leadership in going after those things. So however that looks, and within Gemini, that could look at interacting with new people in a more confident manner. It could look at going after learning opportunities in a way that's more confident now that you're settled into this energy and you know what you want to do. It really is about using your own self-expression to put yourself out there and start to carry yourself forward through this energy. In week 2 of this cycle, we will start that off with the first quarter moon in the sign of Virgo. And that will occur, my friends, on June the 2nd. So that's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. And Virgo is the sign of care and service to others. So how are we able to care for ourselves in a way that we are able to show up in service to others in our best light? How are we able to manage our time, our money, our energy, all of our personal resources in a way that we are able to take care of ourselves in the best light? That means where we're not exhausted. That means where we are not overgiving of ourselves, and we are keeping in consideration that we need to take care of ourselves physically and mentally, and we need to then in order to show up and be responsible for the things that we feel obligated to and the people that are dependent on us. Virgo is very much about health and well-being and removing the toxic stuff from your world so that you're able to show up in your best light and not be drained, so that we're able to bring in our harvest and manage those resources accordingly. Um, Virgo is the sign of the perfectionist. And so when the messenger meets the perfectionist, what is that really all about? So we're looking at what we're processing, all the different environments that we are showing up in, and how are we managing our time, our money, our energy, our emotions as we step into all those different environments. The second week of any lunar cycle with that first quarter moon is almost a crisis point. It's a time where we're being called to take action and make some changes as we develop this awareness of what it's going to take to improve our efforts. When we move from Virgo into the sign of Libra, that will happen on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. That's when we really start to look at who are we partnering with? How are we relating to the people that we partner with? And how are we relating to people in general? How are we showing up in terms of our communication by giving our resources to people in a way that it's reciprocal, where there's fairness and justice is being done so that we can all be really working together to get ourselves where we need to go. As we're getting the messenger meeting with the diplomat, who is our Libra archetype, it's really about how are we harmonizing the way that we relate with our world and our environment and the people within it, right? We're processing all these thoughts and ideas, and we're dealing with all these different people that we meet with on a day-to-day and all these different environments that we find ourselves in on a day-to-day in order to start putting together the pieces that's going to help us to come up with a plan as to how we're going to get our goals to happen. So when we end up in Libra, especially during that second week of coming to awareness and working through some crisis points, we're really looking at how am I relating in those relationships? Am I showing up and sharing what's important for me to be growing and working on? Are other people acting in support of that? Are other people taking advantage by my people-pleasing behavior? Are other people taking advantage of the resources that I have to offer? Which brings us into Scorpio energy, which will happen at the tail end of the week. And that will happen over next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, as we finish up that second phase in the sign of Scorpio, which is really about how we share our resources with other people, particularly those that we are in partnership with, and so particularly with those that we are in intimate relationships with. So what does that look like? Where are there power imbalances? Where are there things that we're trying to control or outcomes that we're trying to control based on the resources that we have? And where are we sharing our resources with others in a way that we're able to transform our ideas and take them to the next level? So that will be week 2. When we enter into week 3 of this cycle, we enter into the full moon in Sagittarius. So once we've gotten through that heavy energy of next weekend, where we are sort of working through this transformative energy of taking the emotional attachments we have to things and outcomes and people and places and transforming that into usable energy that we can share our resources with other people. When we get to that full moon in Sagittarius, we start to share with the world what it is that we want to expand and grow, especially based on what it is that we're processing and learning more about and how to communicate that with the people that are around us, that we surround ourselves with. And as we're learning different ways to go about that, Sagittarius is about how can we take that to the next level? How can we develop what's really important to us even further? What new perspectives can we gain? What new environments can we explore? That can be in terms of long distance travel. That can be in terms of internet travel, meeting new people beyond what we know, beyond our everyday experience, in order to expand our horizons and show us the potential of what's out there. And after that energy of the weekend, where we were sort of struggling with how we are sharing our resources with others, once we freed up the emotions from that, Sagittarius is the energy of just panning that telescope out in the sky and seeing what's possible. Now that we can detach from that emotions and we just want to go with it and explore, to truly go beyond and realize what it is that we're capable of going after, Sagittarius is going to give us that fiery energy to go off and explore even further in that far-reaching fire. And so that will be a really fun experience to have. And as we show up in that accountability for ourselves, what it is that we want to share, that we've been building and grounding in and processing so that we can go, we're also seeing where other people are showing up and what they want to do. And the full moons are often a time of heightened emotions. This one is more jovial. It's a more lighthearted kind of feeling behind it. But that being said, it is also an opportunity to show up, as I said, in our own accountability while also seeing where other people are showing up in their accountability. And that allows us to make this reflection as to, are we in alignment with people that we're around? And it also allows us to see that light even brighter as to who we can be connecting with and aligning with, that's going to help us to expand our goals even further. So the full moon is going to occur on June the 11th, and that energy will take place around the 9th, 10th, and 11th, which will be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of the following week. And then we move into the sign of Capricorn, and that will be Thursday and Friday, and that of the 12th and the 13th. I keep looking at the calendar behind me. So Capricorn is all about how can we come up with a framework that's going to support what it is that we're working on, and how can we start to build that foundation into the legacy that we'd like to leave behind, into what it is that the image that we're creating for ourselves, the reputation that we're building ourselves, and the things that we're building that are going to stay in the long term, that we want to work with in the long term. So when we're showing up with that full moon energy, even though the moon is starting to come off of the full moon, we're still working within that full moon energy throughout the third week of the cycle. And it really is allowing us to show up again in that accountability of how we're putting the pieces together so that we can be disciplined and we can be using our resources effectively so that they're going to last for the long term, that we can show up in our own authority and make sure that we are starting to put these pieces together as to what it is that we need to learn about, communicate about, who we need to meet with and talk to, so that we can start to organize this into our daily lives and make this happen. After that, we're going to move into the weekend of the 14th, 15th, and even into Monday the 16th, and we'll be working in the sign of Aquarius. And so that really does speak to, what is it that we want to build that goes beyond ourselves? So while we're working on all these goals that we have for ourselves, and we're evolving ourselves to bring our passions into the world, how then are we going to contribute those passions and goals and dreams and visions to the groups that we find ourselves belonging to? And that's our family groups, that's our friend groups, that's our work groups, that's society at large. How are we going to show up to offer what it is that we have to offer beyond ourselves? It's not just about us, but it's a very humanitarian sign when we're working with the sign of Aquarius. And Aquarius is the innovator. Aquarius, when the messenger meets the Aquarius, it's like, okay, we've been processing all these things from our environments and the people and the way that we communicate and what we can be learning about. Now, how can we come up with new, cool ideas that's going to allow us to expand this even further and then share this with the different groups that we belong to, so that it is in service to something that's beyond just ourselves? Yes, we can create for ourselves, but how can we give that to the world that we are a part of? And finally, that's going to take us into week 4. And week 4 is the last quarter moon, and that too is another crisis point, but it's also a period of deep release. It's also a period of idealizing, because in week 4 of this cycle, we're dealing with the moon in Pisces. Pisces is all about release and let go in order to idealize the future. The last quarter moon is all about making some choices as to where we started at the beginning of this cycle to further ourselves, and continue on with the way that we want to go about processing, learning, going about communicating with new people, working with new environments, working and adapting to our environments that we already find ourselves in, so that it's in support of what it is that we want to create. And so as we go into the last week of the cycle, when it's really about choice, and especially when we're under the sign of Pisces, as she meets with the energy of the messenger and the idea of processing all of the environments and the people, it really comes down to, what have we learned within the first 3 weeks of this cycle, when we've looked at all the different environments we find ourselves in and the ways that we communicate with people? Where have we seen that those are still in alignment with what it is that we want to create moving forward? And where do we maybe need to let go in order to continue to follow through with what we're trying to idealize into the future? So that last week of any cycle, when I say crisis point, it can be a heavy week where we're starting to make some realizations. We've worked through things for the first 3 weeks. We've tried to manage all the different environments that we have and all the different people. And we've tried to make it all work and come together. By the time we get to the end of this cycle, we'll start to recognize where sometimes things are just not working out anymore, and it's time to release it in order to see where we can go and in order to dream up all the different potential. Once the energy has been released from what we were working on, how can we then take the energy that's come from that release and put it towards dreaming about the future? So that will come with that week 4 start. And from Pisces, which will occur on June the 17th and 18th, which happen to be a Tuesday and a Wednesday, we'll move into the sign of Aries. Aries, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that energy of what are the creative sparks, what are the visions, what are the goals that we want to be working on. And so when we visit the sign of Aries at the tail end of the lunar cycle, and we're talking about processing and communicating and managing the way that we respond to our environments and our people, when we get back to that sign of Aries, we're talking about, okay, so I've started to bring these new visions and goals of mine to the day-to-day, and I've interacted with people in my environments. I've even found some new environments and some new people, and I've explored even more potential that I might have in my ability to share my dreams and share my visions with other people. And when I land back here at the tail end of the week, the tail end of the cycle, I'm really going to make some choices as to how I used to show up in terms of my old goals and my old visions versus how I need to and want to show up in terms of these new goals and visions that I'm starting to really put my time and my energy into. So again, there's an ask for making some choices here. Are there old goals and old visions that need to be let go of, that might come with some emotions attached to it, that might come with some just really holding on to things that they've played their part and their time is done. And in order to develop and use more energy to create more fire for what we want to grow, we're going to have to make some release. So the moon will be in Aries at that tail end of the 4th week, and that will be on the 19th and the 20th, which is the Thursday and the Friday. And then we will transition into the sign of Taurus. And Taurus, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is all about grounding in what is important, grounding in the resources that we're going to need in order to grow what we want to grow in a sustainable way. So as we, again, are working with that release energy, it's really looking at, I've now discovered the things that are important. I've discovered where my energy needs to go, where my time and my money and my emotions need to be. So what do I need to release now in order to take that one step further? Now that I've interacted with all my environments, now that I've communicated with the different people, now that I've met new people and introduced myself to new environments that are more conducive to what it is that I want to be growing, what do I need to release that was part of the old chapter that's no longer going to be coming through to the new chapter, to this next stage of what it is that I'm trying to build? After Taurus, we're going to return back to the sign of Gemini, and that the moon will be not even visible in the sky. We will be right before the next new moon cycle that's about to begin. And we return to Gemini for a deep, deep reflection as to what has transpired over all the 4 weeks of this cycle. So that will bring up for us the things that were starting to sort of surface or float around, because in Gemini we're dealing with air energy. So the things that were floating around, the ideas that were coming up, and the new people and the new situations and the new environments that were starting to show themselves to us as to how we can further ourselves. And it will be opportunity for us to make some choices as to what needs to be released that is part of old environments that we were working with. That's part of old ways that we would communicate, or the people that we might have communicated with, the old things that we were putting our energy towards being adaptable with and learning about. Now that we know what it is that is going to support our vision in terms of learning new ways and talking with new people, or even talking with the same people but in new ways and about new things that have to do with the things that we want to create. What needs to be released before we can enter into the next cycle? And that will bring us to the new moon in Cancer, which is all about nurturing those things that we want to grow, nurturing ourselves to develop a sense of home within ourselves so that we feel confident and capable to explore and grow the things that it is that we're trying to grow. So that is the full 4 weeks. I would love to discuss this with you and travel through your own personal chart. You can always reach out to me here, leave a message down below, comment that you'd like to work with me, and I would love to work with you one-on-one. We can work through a single cycle, or I offer seasonal packages as well. And the other way to dive in is to explore the Archetypes of the Zodiac course. And so we will be launching the summer cohort as of June 21st with the summer solstice, the first day of summer, and that will take you through the 3 months of summer. So we begin with the sign of Cancer. We do the Cancer archetype of the nurturer. We move into the Leo archetype of the performer, and then how we are expressing it, what it is that we want to create, and really honing in on that and what we're passionate about. And it will take us into September with the archetype of the perfectionist, who is ruler of the sign of Virgo, and that works us through how are we going to start changing our day-to-day and making our systems work for us and making our schedules and our routines work. So if you're interested in learning more about the cohorts course, again, comment below, or you can go find more of that information at themavenscall.com. You can look for me under my profile, Stacey Nyman, and you will see that you can sign up for that registration over there. That's it for today. I look forward to seeing you as the month keeps going on my various different platforms, and I hope you all have a beautiful Gemini lunar cycle. Take care.